Welcome to the Cheating Secrets channel. We hope you enjoy today's story. I was driving on I-225 when my life changed. In fact, it would be more accurate to say when my life turned into hell. I had just dropped my wife off at work. She had taken her car to the dealership for maintenance and planned to pick it up later that day during her lunch break. I was turning on to I-25 when my cell phone rang. I answered it, but the ringing continued, and I suddenly realized it wasn't my phone ringing. I looked around and saw Candy's cell phone lying on the passenger seat next to the passenger door. There was no way I was going to reach over and pick up the handset while trying to merge into rush hour traffic, so it rang a few more times before stopping. Once I merged onto I-25 and blended with the traffic, I reached out, took her phone, and opened it. A message appeared on the screen. "You have one new voicemail." I started to close the phone, but then thought it might be something important, and perhaps I should listen to it, then call Candy at work and tell her about the message. I pressed the call button and brought the phone to my ear. "You have one unheard message." First unheard message. "Hello, dear, it's me. I'm in room 114 at the hotel on the boulevard. I should finish my business at 3 and be back in the room by 4. In case you don't get this message for some reason, I'll call you at the office around 10. Take care, Candy, and know that I eagerly await this day." End of message. To delete this message, press 7. Until he said "Take care, Candy," I thought the message had the wrong number. But as soon as he said Candy, I realized that my comfortable life had just ended. There was some kind of denial in me, thinking there might be a slim chance that there was another Candy out there with a cell phone number close to my wife's. What were the odds? 10 million to 1. I closed Candy's phone and threw it back on the seat. I drove the rest of the way on autopilot, as my thoughts were definitely not on driving. After parking at work, I got out, moved to the passenger seat, took Candy's phone, and placed it on the floor between the seat and the door, just in case Candy came looking for it after the mysterious man's call at 10 o'clock. What I really wanted to do was throw that damn device to the ground and stomp it into pieces. A modern version of killing the messenger who brought bad news. I closed the door and got down to work. I met Candy at a party organized by a group I was helping. Andy worked with me, and he had a garage band with some friends. I had never heard them play and had no idea if they were any good or not. I spent a lot of time at the local bar and knew its owner quite well. The bar had a fairly large dance floor, and on Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, Harry had a live band performing. On each day, I was sitting in the bar, sipping beer and trying for the millionth time to strike up a conversation with Karen, the bartender, when I saw Harry coming out of the office with a grim expression on his face. "How's it going, Harry? You look like your dog just died." "Worse than that. The band I booked for this weekend just called and canceled because their drummer and lead guitarist were in an accident and are in the hospital. I've spent the last 2 hours trying to find a replacement, but there's just no one available. Everyone is booked for the weekend. How desperate are you?" "Right now, I'd settle for 3 monkeys banging on drums. Maybe I can help. Give me a quarter." Harry told Karen to give me a quarter from the cash register, and I took it to the payphone and called Andy. He came and talked to Harry, and that weekend the uncalled for made their debut. It turned out they were pretty decent, and Harry signed them for a 3-month stint as the house band. I never had to buy another drink when I was at the bar. The band started calling me their manager, even though I had never done anything for them other than introducing Harry and Andy. Somehow, one Sunday, the band threw a party to celebrate their move to the big time, and I was invited. I was standing, leaning against a wall, sipping beer, and watching Andy's girlfriend trying to escape from her bikini when someone's voice said, "I heard it was you who made this party happen." I turned to the left and saw an absolutely stunning woman, about 155 centimeters tall, with chestnut hair, brown eyes, and a body made to arouse desire. She extended her hand and said, "Candy Vichak, and you are?" "Rob Dahlman," I said, taking her extended hand and shaking it. "So, is it true that we have you to thank for this party?" "Hardly. I just made a phone call and connected 2 people, and it wasn't even my quarter." "Well, everyone in the band gives you credit for it." "Do you know everyone in the band?" "The drummer is my cousin." I noticed she wasn't wearing any rings on her left hand, and I was on the verge of starting a dance that would have led to me asking her out for dinner sometime, when 2 women approached her, and pulled her away. Throughout the rest of the party, whenever I saw her, she was always with a group, and I never got another chance to talk to her. 2 weeks later, on a Thursday night, I was sitting in the bar, trying for the millionth and 10th time to strike up a conversation with Karen while Andy's band played Long Cool Woman in a black dress in the background. As usual, I had no luck when someone grabbed my arm and pulled me off the stool. I looked up to see it was Candy. "Come on," she said. "No need to sit on the bar stool when a lady needs a dance partner." I let her lead me to the dance floor. I'm not a great dancer, but she was magnificent, and simply by being her partner, I looked half decent. I was ready to return to my bar stool when the song ended, but then the band started playing Bowie's Suffragette City, and Candy clung to me, ensuring I couldn't leave the dance floor. Dancing with Candy, I wondered why she seemed to be without company. She must have had to fend off guys with a stick, so there was no reason to think she would be alone at a bar during a live band performance. As I looked at her, I marveled at my audacity to think I could ask her out. Obviously, she was way out of my league. Time for some honesty. I'm not Brad Pitt. I had at least 5 kilograms of excess weight, gray streaks were appearing in my chestnut hair, and male pattern baldness was beginning to show. I didn't know Candy's age, but I must have been at least 15 years older than her. The song ended, and before I could ask her where she was sitting so I could escort her back to her table, the band started playing Nights in White Satin, and Candy moved closer to me and said, "One more, please." I embraced her, and we began to slow dance. I looked down at her. I know I mentioned she was 155 centimeters, but I don't think I mentioned that I was 190 centimeters, and saw her looking up at me with a smile on her face. I had no idea what was happening and was utterly confused. What was this sexual young creature doing trying to excite an old man like me? The song ended, and she led me back to where she was sitting. It turned out to be the table where the wives and girlfriends of the band members sat. I held the chair for her as she sat down and thanked her for the dance. As I started to turn to leave, she asked, "Where are you going?" "Back to the bar." "Oh, no, you're not going." She pointed to a chair next to her and said, "You are part of this group, whether you realize it or not, so you must join us." "But I have." She pointed to the chair again and said, "Sit down." Another woman at the table said, "You'd better do it. If you don't, she'll just keep following you around and nagging until you do." I gave in and sat down next to Candy. I looked around for a waitress to ask her to bring me a drink from the bar, and suddenly she was there with my beer in hand. "I had a feeling you wouldn't return to the bar," she said. She looked over the table where 6 women were sitting and said, "You might want something stronger than beer if you're planning to hang out with these girls." "Don't worry about him," Candy said. "He's mine, and I don't share." The table erupted in whoops and cries of "woo woo" and "go, girl." Tina shifted her gaze from me to Candy and then back to me, shaking her head in disbelief, and I found myself wondering what the heck was happening. Candy noticed the expression on my face and said, "We'll talk later," placing her hand on my leg. Thankfully, the tabletop prevented the others from seeing this. Otherwise, God knows how they would have reacted. Candy leaned in and whispered in my ear, "I'll explain when you take me home." Tina brought me more beer, and as I sipped it, I pondered the situation. It was clear that Candy was making some moves on me, and frankly, I didn't know how to handle it. I had relationships with several women in my life, including 2 ex-wives, but to say I got involved doesn't fully tell the story. I had to work hard to get to the point of involvement with each of them. Numerous dates, phone calls, sending postcards and flowers. It took time and effort, but here, for the first time in my life, a woman was pursuing me, and I didn't know what to do. Moreover, I didn't know why. I wasn't spectacular. Not really. I danced a few more times with Candy and a couple of times with other women at the table. One of these women was Andy's girlfriend, Mary. As we twirled around the dance floor, Mary said, "Candy seems very taken with you. I've never seen her act so possessive before." "Possessive? Towards me? Come on. You're saying you didn't notice the looks she was giving to the girls you danced with?" "That's nonsense. This is only the second time I've seen her in my life." "Seriously?" "Absolutely. The first time was at your party 2 weeks ago, and even then, I only talked to her for maybe 3 or 4 minutes. That was until she pulled me off the bar stool a while ago. I don't know what happened in those 3 or 4 minutes, but it was something. For the last 2 weeks, she's been grilling Andy for information about you, and the reason she came here with us tonight is that Andy told her you would probably be here. Walking Mary back to the table, I was more puzzled than ever. What could there be about me that would interest a sexy lady who was obviously much younger than me? Around 10 o'clock, Candy said, "I need to leave. I have to get up and go to work tomorrow." She looked at me and asked, "Are you ready to take me home?" She was gorgeous and sexy, and although I had no idea what was happening, I wasn't going to say no. As she buckled her seatbelt, Candy asked, "Do you believe in love at first sight?" I've never really thought about it. I definitely know it's never happened to me, although I suppose I've felt lust at first sight a couple of times. Why do you ask? Just curious. I wanted to know if I was alone in this. Alone in what? I'm sure. You've noticed I was a bit forward when it came to you. I had no idea what to say, so I just focused on my driving. You didn't notice? Well, when I saw you at the party, something happened to me. I can't explain it, but I knew I had to meet you. I found out from Andy who you were, and then I approached you. I didn't see a ring on your finger, but I couldn't believe no other woman had a claim on you, so I decided to learn as much as I could about you. I like what I found out, and I decided I want you. How's that for being straightforward? You can't be serious. Oh, but I am serious. Now all I need to do is sell you on the idea. When we got to her house, she reached out, turned off the ignition, and pulled my keys from the ignition switch. "Come on, baby," she said, getting out of the car. "We need to see how good a salesperson I am." We spent 3 hours in her bedroom, and to make a long story short, she did sell me on the idea. We lived together for the next 2 years, and then I finally made it official. The following 10 years were the happiest of my life. Candy and I both had good jobs that we enjoyed, and neither of us was in a hurry to quit, so we decided we didn't want children. To spare Candy the trouble with birth control pills, diaphragms, and the like, I had a vasectomy. Both of us advanced in our chosen careers, and ultimately, she became a regional manager, overseeing 17 offices across the state. I climbed a corporate ladder and became the vice president of marketing. Both jobs involved travel. Candy's more than mine, but we didn't have to spend too much time apart. Life was good, until I had to go and listen to the voicemail on Candy's phone. That morning, I didn't accomplish much at work. Most of the time, I sat in my office looking out the window, pondering various things. Candy was 12 years younger than me. This age difference didn't mean much when I was 32 and Candy was 20, but it became somewhat significant when I was 48 and she was 36. I enjoyed sex with Candy, and my personal life was satisfying, but it seemed that the older I got, the less I thought about it. Twice a week was sufficient for me, but Candy's sexual drive was much stronger than mine, and honestly, I couldn't keep up with her. At times, my inability to keep pace with her was frustrating for her, and it even led to arguments on several occasions. I'm a realist and fully understood that as I aged, the problem would worsen. I'm also one of those people who believe that you can have sex without love, just as you can have love without sex, and I also believe that sex is a need, like food and water. I prayed that the day would never come when I couldn't perform at all, but I had to come to terms with the fact that Candy would always want more than I could give her. I loved her and didn't want to lose her. I don't know if her sexual desire could ever drive her to seek a little extra outside our home, but the possibility existed, and if it ever happened and I found out, it would be the end of our marriage. Candy was well aware of my stance on infidelity. Both of my ex-wives cheated on me, and that's why they were thrown out. One night, while Candy and I were making love, and I couldn't perform a third time, she started to complain about me leaving her unsatisfied, and I said to her, "Maybe all you need is to find a lover who could help you out?" "Oh, sure. Then I could join your 2 other ex-wives on the sidelines." "Not necessarily." "What do you mean?" My other 2 wives were kicked to the curb because they sneaked around behind my back. Janet was picking up guys in bars and sleeping with them in the back seats in parking lots. Mary was sucking up to her boss for a promotion. They both stabbed me in the back, and that was completely unacceptable to me. I won't live with lies or sycophancy, but this would be different. I would know about it in you. No, I believe that sex is a physical need and is necessary for good health as food and drink. And obviously, I'm not providing what you need. I'm willing to let you satisfy your needs as necessary, provided you're honest and open about it, and provided you follow certain guidelines. I would be willing to accept that. Guidelines. Just a few simple rules to follow. Never have sex here, in our home. Never stay with the same man for more than 30 days to reduce the chance of emotional conflicts. I don't want to see or even hear about what you do together. I wouldn't want to know who it is, and I would insist that you never come to me after a date without having showered and brushed your teeth. All I would need to know is that you were planning to do it. A call to tell me you're coming home late because you had a meeting with someone. That's all I would want. If you have a date planned for the evening, I would want you to tell me in advance so I can make sure I'm not here to see you getting dressed for the date. You can't be serious, right? It doesn't matter, Rob. I'm never going to do that. And as far as I knew, until I heard that voicemail, she hadn't. At 10:30, Candy called me. She first asked if she had left her mobile phone in the car, and I told her I didn't know, and the last time I saw it, it was on the kitchen table, plugged into the charger. You probably just forgot it. Probably. While I have you on the phone, I might be a bit late tonight. The boss wants everyone to gather for a short meeting about expense reports and a few other things. So, should I fend for myself for dinner? There's plenty of leftovers in the fridge and some frozen meals in the freezer. I'll try not to be late. I love you, babe. Me too, sweetheart. At 3:45, I parked in the lot across from the hotel. I had a good view of the door to room 114 and settled in to wait. At 4:25, a man approached the door to room 114, inserted his key into the lock, and entered. I recognized him from one of the Christmas parties at Candy's office. His name was Dave Maxon, and he was the manager of one of the offices in Candy's region. At 5:15, a familiar Chevrolet Tahoe pulled up to room 114 and parked. Candy got out, walked to the door, and knocked. The door opened, and she entered. I watched the door until 5 to 7, then drove home. It was 5 minutes to 9 when Candy came home, and I was in the kitchen, drinking beer and doing the crossword from the daily newspaper when she walked in. "Hi, honey," she said and leaned in to kiss me. I turned my head, so she kissed my cheek instead. She stepped back and asked, "What's wrong?" "I don't know, Candy. Why don't you tell me?" "What should I tell you?" "I don't know. What do you think you should tell me?" "How much beer have you had, Rob?" "You're not making any sense. I'm waiting for you to tell me something." "Here's what I'll tell you, Rob." "What do you want me to say?" "A long time ago, we had a talk about our personal life. I specifically said no lying and no sneaking around. Do you remember that little talk?" She looked at me for a few seconds, then I saw her eyes harden. "What's the matter, Rob? Are you accusing me of something? Is there something you should be accused of?" "Of course not. Were you late because of a meeting set up by your boss?" "That's right. So, it wasn't you I saw entering room 114 at the hotel today? Just a figment of my imagination?" I took out her cell phone, turned on the speaker, and pressed the buttons to play her voicemail. First missed message. "Hi, sweetie, it's me. I'm in room 114 at the hotel on the boulevard." The message played while Candy stood there, her face ashen. "No lies. I explained this as clearly as I could. You were free to do what you wanted, and all I asked for was honesty. Anything else would be cheating, and you know my stance on infidelity." Candy looked at me silently for a few seconds, tears appearing in her eyes, and she said, "I'm sorry. I just couldn't bring myself to tell you. It would be like saying you weren't man enough for me, and I couldn't bear to do that to you." I just looked at her with a stone-faced expression. She sobbed a little, then said, "I'll start packing my things." "That's probably for the best," I said, and as she left the room, I took a sip of my beer and returned to my crossword. I was doing it in ink, and some of the words were smudged by my tears. Thank you for being with us and listening until the end. If you found it interesting, please subscribe, give us a like, and leave your comments. And we'll see you on the Cheating Secrets channel.